Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for making the time to connect to day 2 of the World Power to X Summit 2020. This summit is co-organized by Irazan and Mohammed VI Polytechnic University. I am Ayman Sharkawi with the Mohammed VI Foundation for Environmental Protection, and I'll be the moderator for today. Day 1 was a particularly inspiring opportunity to discuss both the high-level vision on Power to X, as well as some initial but still in-depth conversations around the nuts and bolts of making the Power to X a reality for all, leaving no one behind. For the second day, we have a series of sessions and speakers just as impressive as day 1 was. And to kick us off, for this very session, where we'll be discussing how hydrogen innovations can ensure the sustainability of the energy transition, I'm very happy to be joined by Mr. Ralph Westphal. He's Executive Vice President at Fraunhofer and one of the most important minds of our time. And it's not just me saying it, it's the Financial Times Dutch champion. Ralph.
Yeah. Thank you, Ayman, and good morning from my side. I'm not an avatar. I'm really here in Morocco, and I can confirm that social distancing here is very good and all the regulations are fulfilled. So why I'm here? Because I think innovation and managing innovations are very important and depend on trust. And we signed yesterday with UM6P, so Euromid Mohamed VI, and in particular OCP, a big contract on cooperation on pilot plants for green ammonia and phosphorus recycling. You just saw this. And so I'm very proud to be here and be the chairman of the session. I'd like to welcome all the speakers here and all the guests outside. So today in session 5, we want to speak about technology challenges and at the bottom of the line, how to manage them, because the challenges are really big. Advances and process in hydrogen technology over the past decade means that this breakthrough energy solution is already being integrated into many energy strategies and also globally on all economies in the world. From hydrogen cars to powering renewable energy, hydrogen is potentially the key as a clean and unlimited resource that can help to lead the sustainability of our energy transition. Therefore, we need to identify, highlight, and promote hydrogen technology challenges and manage them. And the challenges are big. I just want to say 3 words. We change our complete backbone of our industry. We just heard in the trailer, steel. I mean, the whole steel process has to be changed. That means the complete industry is restructured, how to manage them. Then we have to produce completely new technology. If I speak about fuel cells, that's a very highly technology, fine mechanically approaching technology, which needs completely new production technologies. And eventually, we bring hydrogen out of the chemical sites where they're nowadays to everybody's home. So this means acceptance and safety. So the challenges are enormous. And one way is obviously about pilot plants, but we want to discuss today here in this how to manage these innovation challenges and have a global view on how we proceed, because we don't have that much time, so we have to be fast. And how to be fast, we like to discuss today. So I'd like to introduce our first 3 speakers now in a row. First one is Mr. Mohamed Ben-Akhia. He is, good morning. He is Secretary of State to the Minister of Energy, Mines and Sustainable Development here in Morocco. And he is responsible for implementing sustainable development measures here in Morocco. He was also a member of the Managing Committee of COP22, and we still remember this was obviously also in Morocco, so this is here really the place to be. Moreover, he runs several cooperation projects, including Yes Green and Clean Tech programs, that encourage creation of green entrepreneurship. I'm personally very much interested, Mr. Venia, on the green entrepreneurship. And he's many parts of mobilizing civil society, so acceptance and creating a green economy that is inclusive. So we are very interested in your presentation. Our second speaker is Mrs. Schwarzelür-Sutter, our Staatssekretär, Secretary of State of our Federal Ministry for Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety in Germany, BMU, where she was reappointed in our last government under Mrs. Merkel. Since 2014, she's also been chair of the Board of Trustees of the Federal German Environmental Foundation, a very important foundation here, to push innovation forward in Germany. Good morning. And our third speaker in the row I'd like to introduce is Mrs. van der Vlies. She's head of the unit of the EU Directorate General in Science Innovation at the European Commission, so the view of the European Commission. She first joined the European Commission in 2002 as legal officer in the Directorate General Environment Unit dealing with recycling, we just heard it, and later member of the Strategic Planning and Programming Unit of DG Environment. Also welcome from my side. So I suggest we start with you, Mr. Mohamed Bania. We are looking forward to your presentation and statements.
Monsieur Benihia, le micro, s'il vous plaît. Votre micro, merci.
Ok. Désolé, donc j'étais en train de dire que...
And excuse me, if you allow me for
Yes.
our speakers, there is a possibility then to have the direct translation, because I think that Mr. Benihia will speak in French, I guess.
Yes, I understood that our work will be in two languages, in French and English, and I prefer to do it in French, sorry. Voilà, donc je voudrais, mesdames et messieurs, merci beaucoup. Merci à monsieur le modérateur pour cette présentation. Je voudrais aussi profiter de ce moment pour féliciter les organisateurs, donc l'Université Polytechnique Mohamed VI et l'IRESEN, pour l'organisation de ce sommet sur le Power-to-X et cette parfaite organisation de cet événement qui arrive, il faut le dire, à un moment propice, à un moment où notre pays est en train de préparer un modèle de développement qui va bientôt être annoncé, également un moment où nous sommes en train de finaliser la vision dans notre pays pour la stratégie long terme de développement à bas carbone, donc là une vision à 2050, et donc véritablement cet événement ne peut pas mieux tomber et il se produit dans un contexte très favorable. Alors, ceci étant dit, nous ne sommes pas au département de l'environnement des spécialistes, nous appartenons au ministère de l'énergie, des mines et de l'environnement, et nous ne sommes pas des spécialistes des questions énergétiques. Nous voyons ces questions énergétiques du point de vue de la réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre. C'est ce qui nous importe le plus, et l'hydrogène vert en particulier, qui n'est pas encore exploité comme il doit l'être, mais grâce à l'évolution des technologies, ceci est maintenant possible, peut être un formidable accélérateur de cette décarbonation de l'économie et de la transition énergétique. Notre stratégie nationale d'efficacité énergétique, à l'horizon 2030, a fixé un certain nombre d'objectifs ambitieux en termes d'économie d'énergie dans l'industrie, dans le transport, dans le bâtiment, et la mobilisation de l'hydrogène vert peut constituer un levier important pour atteindre ces objectifs. Alors, dans notre contribution déterminée au niveau national, la NDC du Maroc, nous sommes en train de finir, à vrai dire, le processus de sa révision avec une augmentation de l'ambition, puisque nous allons passer de 42% de réduction à l'horizon 2030 à 44,2%. Nous avons revu le portefeuille de projet avec l'ensemble des partenaires et cette augmentation d'ambition a été donc possible grâce à la mobilisation des acteurs concernés dans le domaine de l'énergie, mais pas seulement, et aussi grâce à l'introduction de secteurs qui n'étaient pas au départ dans la NDC précédente. Donc notamment le secteur des phosphates, qui va contribuer énormément à la réduction des émissions de gaz à effet de serre et peut être parmi les secteurs qui pourraient être le plus tôt possible neutres en carbone. Donc, nous avons dans notre NDC jusqu'à présent, jusqu'à 2030, la partie production d'électricité à partir des sources d'énergie renouvelables représente le fer de lance de cette transition énergétique, suivi bien entendu par un certain nombre de secteurs tout aussi importants. L'industrie, par exemple, en y incluant le ciment et les phosphates, représenterait le deuxième secteur, où l'effort de réduction important est attendu, puisque l'énergie, la production d'électricité sur la période 2020 à 2030 représenterait quelque chose comme 30% de l'effort de réduction des émissions. Alors que l'industrie, en y mettant et les phosphates et le secteur du ciment, représenterait quelque chose comme 26% du potentiel de réduction. Ce qu'on peut observer, c'est qu'à la fin de la NDC, donc vers 2030, cette proportion va changer, puisque la production d'électricité d'origine renouvelable va baisser à 25% au lieu de 30%, et ceci va être compensé par la partie industrie qui va passer à un niveau supérieur et représenterait quelque chose comme 32%. Donc vous voyez que sur la décade qui vient, la part de l'industrie va aller grandissante. Et tout ceci est très heureux parce que si on inclut l'hydrogène, qui va permettre bien entendu d'accélérer la transition énergétique et toucher tous les secteurs consommateurs d'énergie, notamment dans l'industrie et le transport, nous allons accélérer la décarbonation et réduire davantage les émissions de gaz à effet de serre. Alors, dans la NDC du Maroc telle qu'elle se présente maintenant, il y a un projet important qui va commencer à partir de 2026-27, qui est la capture et la valorisation du carbone, et qui est porté par l'OCP. Ça aussi, c'est un aspect novateur, et l'OCP est en train de finaliser les études pour voir, en fonction des technologies disponibles, comment tout ceci va être réalisé, mais il est inscrit dans la partie conditionnelle. Puisque notre NDC, il y a deux portefeuilles de projets, l'un qui sera fait de manière inconditionnelle par les ressources propres du pays ou mobilisé dans le cadre du financement standard, disponible déjà, et le reste lié à la mobilisation des ressources de la finance climat. Et ce projet-là en particulier, il est inscrit dans la partie conditionnelle. Alors, nous avons également, dans la foulée de la révision de la NDC qui va être présentée bientôt au secrétariat de la Convention climat, avec, comme je disais, ce gisement d'augmentation de l'ambition, nous avons parallèlement et tout récemment élaboré une vision à 2050 pour une stratégie de développement bas carbone. Et là, dans cette stratégie, l'hydrogène a une part importante, et l'hydrogène vert qui est inscrit dans cette vision et qui pourra bien entendu permettre de répondre à un objectif de décarbonation ambitieux, puisque ceci nous est bien entendu entre guillemets imposé avec nos principaux partenaires, notamment dans le cadre du Green Deal avec l'Union européenne, et nous nous y préparons. Alors ça, c'est des aspects important. Je voudrais aussi signaler que dans le cadre de cette vision à 2050, la part des énergies renouvelables serait entre 70 à 80% en 2050. Également, l'électrification des usages dans les secteurs de l'industrie, du bâtiment et bien entendu du transport. Et l'hydrogène vert est un accélérateur de cette transition et cette décarbonation. Il y a aussi un effet qui est important pour nous à l'environnement, induit de cette disons, transition énergétique boostée par l'utilisation massive de l'hydrogène vert, qui est l'amélioration de la qualité de l'air. Et c'est une question d'importance haute dans la politique environnementale nationale, puisque la dégradation de la qualité de l'air génère un impact sur le PIB qui est important. Et nous sommes déterminés, nous avons un programme pour réduire, surveiller d'abord cette qualité de l'air. Nous sommes en train de développer le réseau de surveillance, mais également mettre en place des mesures pour réduire cette dégradation de la qualité de l'air. Et donc, l'introduction de technologies à base d'hydrogène, que ce soit pour la production d'énergie ou pour la production de molécules de biocarburants, permettrait également et contribuerait certainement à la réduction de la qualité de l'air, à la réduction de la pollution de l'air. Donc, ce qu'on peut dire, nous, à l'environnement, c'est que nous sommes, bien entendu, avec nos collègues du département d'énergie, très engagés sur cette feuille de route pour l'hydrogène vert qui est en train d'être peaufinée et finalisée à l'horizon 2050. Elle est parfaitement en phase avec cette vision de décarbonation à l'horizon 2050. Mais ceci, et j'ai écouté attentivement ce qui a été dit à la séance d'ouverture par les ministres qui étaient présents, et notamment le nôtre Sirbah, mais tout ceci nécessite une coopération internationale accrue et renforcée. Parce que, comme vous le savez, l'hydrogène est ancien, son usage dans l'industrie et timidement dans le transport, ce n'est pas quelque chose de nouveau. Ce qu'il y a lieu de faire maintenant, c'est de réussir cette transformation vers un hydrogène vert qui coûterait moins cher et qui permettrait d'utiliser en fait le surplus de production des énergies renouvelables, que ce soit le solaire ou l'éolien, ce surplus pour produire de l'hydrogène vert à partir de l'électrolyse. Et donc ceci nécessite, et moi j'ai bien entendu ce qui avait été dit hier à l'ouverture, ceci nécessite une coordination parce que c'est une question transversale et une coordination de l'ensemble des parties prenantes, à la fois au sein des pays, mais également à l'international. Et la mise en place d'alliances comme ceci a été mis en place entre notre pays et l'Allemagne est un élément, un ingrédient important, pour réussir cette transition, il faudra une alliance globale. Moi, j'ai écouté que la capacité installée actuellement pour l'hydrogène est de 1%, alors que nous devons être à 50% à l'horizon 2050. La capacité installée est de 200 MW et nous devons passer à 3300 gigawatts. Ce qui veut dire que la technologie est maîtrisée, la volonté est là, et donc il va falloir coordonner les actions en fait, au sein des pays et entre les pays pour faire de l'hydrogène le véritable accélérateur de la décarbonation de toute l'économie dans son ensemble et de la production, bien sûr, de molécules vertes qui pourraient servir ou à l'industrie ou à l'agriculture. Donc voilà ce que je voulais vous dire brièvement, de notre point de vue, comment nous voyons cette transformation qui pourra, moyennant toutes les conditions que je viens de citer, qui pourra véritablement nous permettre d'atteindre les objectifs de l'accord de Paris et être, Inch'Allah, en 2100, avec une élévation de température inférieure à 1,5 degré, ce qui est la volonté de la communauté internationale, mais surtout des pays en développement qui souffrent beaucoup des effets et des impacts des changements climatiques. Merci.
Ben Rahia, thank you very much. And je passe la parole, pour parler français, je passe la parole maintenant à Mrs. Schwarzelöhr-Suter for her statement. Thank you.
State Secretary Benachia, Professor Wirsborn, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me, and I also want to talk about green hydrogen and its role. Green hydrogen and its derivatives have an essential role to play in achieving the Paris climate targets, and sustainability requirements must be defined now and adhered to right from the very outset. In the interest of climate action and environmental protection, it is important that hydrogen is produced with electricity from renewable energy sources. The necessary quantities of renewable energy also need to be provided, and PTX plants cannot be allowed to result in an increase in electricity generation from fossil fuels, whether nationally or globally. But there are also other questions to consider. For example, the social impacts in the countries of production or the consumption of resources required for production, including land and water. To use the precious commodity of green hydrogen as efficiently as possible, the demand side must ensure that hydrogen is used selectively where no other technological solutions for decarbonization will be available in the foreseeable future. In our view, these are areas would include in particular the chemical and steel industries and air maritime transport. And let me give you a few insights into where we stand now on this topic in Germany. Germany recently adopted the National Hydrogen Strategy to accelerate the market ramp-up of green hydrogen and PTX in the coming years. The German government is providing 6 billion euros into implementation at national level, and instruments such as direct support for plant construction will also play a role in implementation, as will carbon contracts for difference. Quotas, which are specifically for power to liquid fuels in aviation, will also be important and implemented. At the same time, it is clear to us that our future demand for green hydrogen and PTX cannot be met by local production alone. Part of this demand will have to be imported. This means that close international cooperation is crucial for us. For several years now, the Federal Environment Ministry has been supporting PTX model and pilot projects through our so-called International Climate Initiative, ICI, for example, in Brazil. Another program we will work with our partner countries, Morocco, South Africa, and Argentina, is scheduled to officially start this month. The Federal Environment Ministry also recently founded the International PTX Hub in Berlin, which is operated by GIZ. The hub is supposed to strengthen global networking, demonstrate PTX potential to mitigate climate change, and engage in an international discussion on sustainability standards. In addition, the German government will provide further 2 billion euros for international cooperation in the coming years as part of the implementation of the national hydrogen strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, green hydrogen and PTX offer major global opportunities for climate change mitigation and added value for industry. However, in order to be successful in long term, the focus must be on sustainability and above all on climate action. I want to stress that in Germany, we want and we must shape the global market ramp up together with our partners on equal footing. We want to establish long-lasting and strong partnerships, and research and development will play an important role in these efforts. All at the same time, important insights will be gained, particularly from scaled-up plans. Research and development must and can go hand in hand with market ramp-up. And let me assure that that Germany is committed to making its contribution to international activities in this regard, as we are committed to a sustainable and just energy transition. And I think if we do that, then we can reach our targets of the Paris Agreement and also our SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your statement, and I'd like to give the word now to Mrs. Rosalinde van der Vlies for a statement of the European Union.
Very much, Professor Werspoon, and good morning, everybody, State Secretary Bergin and Madam Swartz-Sutter. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with you this morning on the second day of this very interesting and important conference. I was recently appointed director of the Clean Planet Directorate in the Directorate General Research Innovation in the European Commission. And actually, I was appointed only yesterday. So this is my first appearance in public in my new role. And that's why for me this is a particularly special moment. And it also underlines the very important role that the European Commission and DG Research and Innovation in particular sees for the green hydrogen in the transition to clean energy in Europe. Now, the Commission has, as you all know, of course, a very ambitious European Green Deal, where the ambition is for the European continent to become the first climate-neutral continent in the world by 2050. Part of this European Green Deal is a hydrogen strategy for Europe that was adopted in July next year. And hydrogen in Europe is foreseen to contribute up to 25% of the energy demand by 2050. Part of this is that we have set very ambitious targets for the clean hydrogen production in Europe. The target aims to install 40 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen electrolyzers by 2030 in the EU. And obviously, this also requires massive investments, massive collaboration, both inside the European Union, but also internationally. And of course, massive research and innovation. The investment needs are estimated to be up to 42 billion euros in electrolyzers in order to meet the strategic objective of the 40 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen electrolyzers by 2030. So the hydrogen strategy for the European Union works in different phases. The first phase will take place from 2020 to 2024. The aim of the first phase is to decarbonize the existing hydrogen production of current users and to promote hydrogen in new applications. The second phase will take place from 2024 to 2030, where hydrogen needs should become an intrinsic part of the integrated energy system. And then the final phase, the third phase of our European hydrogen strategy, will be from 2030 to 2050, where renewable hydrogen technologies should be deployed at a large scale and also reach all the hard to decarbonize sectors. So these objectives are extremely ambitious. And as I mentioned before, we can only achieve this in close collaboration, both within the European Union and also internationally. So this requires substantial investments in research and innovation. Research and innovation in particular will help to improve the efficiency of the electrolyzers that use renewable energy, in particular solar and wind, and will also reduce the costs of the green hydrogen that will be generated. So we have currently at the European level an investment program for research and innovation called Horizon 2020. And as part of Horizon 2020, we have set up a partnership with industry, the Fuels and Hydrogen Partnership. And this has really created an industrial ecosystem. There are many players across the whole value chain of hydrogen that participate in this partnership, ranging from the large utilities to small innovative SMEs. And one of the most promising applications that we see as part of this partnership is in the application of the green hydrogen in the heavy truck transport. Also part of our current investment program on research and innovation, recently we launched a new call for proposals, the so-called Green Deal call. In total, 1 billion euro of investments in concrete climate solutions. And there are two specific calls for application that are directly helping to achieve and contribute to the European hydrogen strategy. There is a call for proposals for demonstrating 100 megawatt electrolyzers under the European Green Deal call, and another call for green airports and ports. So this call for application is still open, and the closing date is the 26th of January next year. And total investments will be 160 million euros. We are also preparing for the next European investment program on research and innovation called Horizon Europe, which is currently in the last phases of negotiation at the European level. This will be the biggest investment program in research and innovation in the history of the European Union. And as part of this future framework program, which will hopefully enter into force next year, will be a new partnership on the clean hydrogen. It will be a public-private partnership. And it is the ambition of the European Commission to increase its investments in this partnership compared to the current fuel cells and hydrogen joint undertaking. So this is a huge opportunity for the European Union. But of course, also internationally, the European Commission is very committed to mission innovation. And in particular, the Hydrogen Valley project of mission innovation has been very useful in order to demonstrate 30 hydrogen valleys. This is really a platform where a lot of lessons can be learned on very promising technologies. So let me conclude by stressing that the European Commission, and in particular DG Research and Innovation, is very committed in investing in the clean hydrogen for our future. And of course, we are convinced that we can only reach our strategic objectives in the European Union in close collaboration internationally. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm looking forward to the debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. van der Vlies. So this is very motivating also from the other speakers. So I have hardly heard in my career such a coherence of the view to get to a hydrogen economy. So let's start with our second part of the presentation of the doing and the management of these points. And our next speaker is Badar Iken. He is Managing Director of the Moroccan National Research Institute for Solar Energy and New Energies. He contributed to the creation of the first solar energy testing, research and training platform Africa, and we know each other from that almost 10 years now. The Green Energy Park in the Green City of Ben Gueria. Mr. Iken received his Karl Eduard Schulte Award from actually the German Association of Engineers, VDI, and he was also working for a couple of years in Germany. Today he's member of several commissions here in Morocco and also on the international level is really promoting the international cooperation by heart and by his motivation, and is burning for renewable energies. So he will be our first speaker. Then I'd like to welcome also Mrs. Florence Lambert. Mrs. Florence Lambert is former CEO of CEA Liten, the Laboratory of New Energy Technology in France. CEA is the third largest laboratory in the world in the field of new energy technologies, more than 1,000 researchers in Grenoble and Chambéry, and a specialist in energy storage. She's interested in battery as in hydrogen. Recently, she was named one of the 20 women of influence in renewable energy in France, so congratulations. Now she just has been appointed, and also congratulations from my part to Mrs. van der Vlies. She has also been appointed as CEO for a new startup, but she will say us a few more words later. Our third speaker is Nieto Gallego. Nieto Gallego is General Manager of CNH2. Dr. Gallego has more than 25 years experience in R&D, quality, and business development management in multinational enterprises in different industrial sectors. Dr. Nieto is co-author of 2 patents and more than 20 research articles. An expert evaluator is working for the European Commission in different projects and is also advisor to several EU projects. So he knows the doing of what we just heard. So I'm very happy that he is also here and gives us his view. And as 4 speakers, Mr. Franz Josef Rademacher. He's director of the Research Institute for Applied-Oriented Knowledge Processing. He has been teaching artificial intelligence and debates at the University of Ulm more than 30 years. And Mr. Rademacher is considered as an authority figure in the fields of globalization, innovation, overpopulation, and global sustainable developments. I'm very curious about his view how to managing this transition. So we'll start with Mr. Bader Eken. Bader, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Ralf Werschborn. It's a real honor and pleasure to be a part of this panel with such kind of distinguished guests. State Secretary, Secretary General Sibeni Yahya as well, and all the other distinguished panelists. I'm very pleased to host you today. We heard it's important to cooperate generally, and especially for the field of hydrogen, we have to cooperate. And this is why today my dear colleague, Professor Ralf Werschborn, is in Morocco and I'm in Germany. No, I'm not in Germany, but I'm very happy that he's now in Morocco and he's chairing this session. I have some slides. I would like then to share some slides with you and then to share our vision. How do we want then to shape the sustainability of the energy transition through innovation, and what are the first steps which we did in Morocco. First of all, if you allow me, we think that the future of Africa would be depending on climate change, population growth, as well as technology adoption. And this is our mission. The mission of the institution which I'm in charge of is to work on the technology adoption. We are a funding agency. We are co-funding collaborative, innovative R&D projects in the field of green technologies. And we are developing a network. We are developing a network of applied research institutions and infrastructures. And we got a very important inspiration from the Fraunhofer Society. And as my dear friend and colleague Ralf Werschborn said, we have a strong collaboration, and I'm very glad to see that this collaboration is now going on another level, and we're strengthening all our activities. We are developing different R&D platforms. We started with solar energy, as well as with the R&D platform for energy efficiency in buildings, smart grids, sustainable mobility, other topics like biomass, biogas, the Nexus water energy, We have as well, we installed one platform in the Ivory Coast, the Green Energy Park, Morocco Ivory Coast. And this is important to have this collaboration, North-South-South collaboration and South-South collaboration. And the new platform will be then introduced in a few slides. This is the Green Energy Park. Because of the time, I won't be then able to speak about all the different departments and activities, but this is only to give you an overview. We're speaking about a kind of a living lab. We have a lot of pilot projects, and this is important if we would like to work, of course, with researchers. We're working with researchers, but we would like as well then to support companies. And this is important to have such kind of facilities. This is the Green and Smart Building Park. We have a lot of labs, conventional labs, but we have as well a kind of small city in which we are able then to do a lot of tests, not only regarding then the energy efficiency in the buildings, but as well regarding smart grids. And the financial support, we're funding R&D in different phases, then really to move and to go forward from low technology readiness levels to higher technology levels. And our last calls are more to fund more than innovation. It means the target is to move from R&D to innovation, and the new kind of call for proposals are to move from innovation to the market. And this is our last call. Mr. Benihia spoke already about the objectives, and we have a very ambitious objectives, and we know and we heard that green hydrogen and power to X might play a role, and a very transversal and a very important role regarding all the different aspects, not only electricity, but as well then industries, mobility, and energy efficiency. We know, and we had the opportunity yesterday to hear and to understand what are the different processes to move from renewable energy to green molecules, to use them as industry feedstock or to use them as an energy vector. And there is clearly a huge opportunity to decarbonize different sectors. We conducted in Morocco different studies since 2018. We had technology and maturity of technology studies. We had social economic studies. We had as well then a study regarding the opportunity and regarding the strategy and roadmap, which we might be then initiate in Morocco, and we are now in the final phases. And Mr. Benihia mentioned as well that we had an agreement with Germany, and we were very glad to have had all the time a very good relationship with different ministries, as well as BMU, the ministry, federal ministry in charge of environment, and all the other ministries. And at the end, we were able then to sign an agreement and to have then a joint vision regarding the future development of green hydrogen. We know there is a potential in Morocco. When we do now simulations, we would be then able to reach a levelized cost of hydrogen, which might be in the midterm near to the parity. All the time we're speaking about the magic limit of $2 per kilogram of hydrogen. And we know that there are some sites in Morocco when we have then the right mix between wind power and then solar energy, we might reach as well this target. And this is why, regarding then our studies which we conducted, we were able to identify the first sectors. And the first one, it was already mentioned, would be the fertilizer industry, because we are an important importer of ammonia. Methanol will as well play a role. And regarding the export, we might have then the same ammonia, methanol, and synthetic fuels. For the midterm, we will start as well with the mobility. We think that the mobility will start more if we have then to consider our neighbors more in Europe as in Morocco. And this is why it might be as well an opportunity for the export. our conditional potential would be, or might be, up to 8 gigawatt by 2030, up to 20 gigawatt by 2040, and up to 80 or 100 gigawatt by 2050. This means there is clearly a huge potential for Morocco, and we might be then able to cover our need and then to help other countries and partners to decarbonize their economies. And this is why we will have a sustainable framework to develop this Power-to-X industry. We prepared as well an action plan, and we see the most important pillars. The pillars are based on technologies, the development of the demand in the markets, as well as the investments and supply chain. We would like to reduce the costs and then to help reducing the costs. R&D is important, a cluster for R&D, and we would like to do it on a regional level. We have to define the relevant measures for local content. We would like as well to set up industry clusters for the domestic need as well as for the export, and we have to prepare the infrastructure and the infrastructure master plan. We have to secure then the funding. We have as well to create the right conditions for exporting Power-to-X products. We have to assess the need to store this energy for the electrical grid, and the development of domestic market is as well important. And I would like then today, during this session, to focus more on innovation, R&D and innovation, and there is clearly a link to the industry. As I said before, we would like to have all the stakeholders involved to be able to develop such kind of R&D and industrial cluster between Africa and Europe, between North Africa and Europe, and we hope that we could be Germany and Morocco, and with other partners, with France, with Spain, we might be then a real game changers, regional game changers for the hydrogen development and the development of the hydrogen economy. And the idea, of course, is to have capacity building, R&D and innovation, to involve all the different public bodies and the industry. And there are, of course, then ideas, projects, how do we have then to prepare all the infrastructures. We don't have then the time to speak about all the details, but I would like then to say that it would be then very important to prepare then all the different sites, the infrastructures, and the framework. And regarding R&D, and this is then the focus of my presentation then today, we are working with partners, such kind of Fraunhofer. I have maybe then to mention, and this is why I said we decided then Ralf Wersborn maybe had or have to stay some months in Morocco, and they will then be then in Germany for a few months. We have a very strong collaboration. And the idea is to develop the expertise on the different parts of the value chain. Renewable energy, there is all the time, and there are still challenges when we have a mix of renewable energy. There is an intermittency. We have as well to evaluate and then to optimize the process regarding electrolyzers. We have as well, when we speak about then green chemical then industry, we have to optimize as well then the processes, and then later on to work on the different applications. First objective is, of course, to get on the train as quickly as possible, as Ralf Wersborn said. Second objective is to decide on the priorities of Morocco and of the partners. And this is why we are developing a new R&D platform, the Green Hydrogen and Applications. And the idea is to be between universities, and we have already activities in universities, and the industry. The idea is to have a lot of pilot projects, and we're glad to have as well then some projects which would be then supported by your ministry, Mrs. Schwarzenegger-Sutter, and we have as well some supports as well from other ministries and other partners. But the idea is to have on this platform the possibility to work on the production of green ammonia, green methanol, as well as power to liquid, and to be able to produce synthetic fuels, and to have the different labs to test. And I have as well to say, if you allow me, we got a lot of inspiration as well regarding the labs when we visited a few years ago the center of Mr. Gallego. And I'm very glad then today that he is joining us, and he will as well then present the activities in Spain, and I hope as well the activities of his center. This is what I wanted then to share with you. I think there are still a lot of challenges, and the idea really is to build through a joint cooperation, to work together, to be able then to innovate. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we have to move from the megawatt scale to the gigawatt scale. We have as well then to learn from the past lessons. We saw, for example, regarding the PV industry, the approach was at the beginning that every country wanted to do it then by its own. And at the end, we saw that in Europe, or European countries, they were not able then to win this competitivity. And I think it's important regarding then the green hydrogen economy, that we need to work together and to develop real regional hubs and to be able then to stay competitive. This is what I wanted then to share with you. And of course, the idea is really to have a new kind of economical and socio-economical partnership between Europe and Africa, between Europe and North Africa. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Bader Eken, for this clear view on the cooperation between Europe and Africa, and this was really stimulating. Thank you very much for this view. We will discuss on this later. So our next speaker is Florence Lambert, and I look forward for your words on presentation. Yes.
Perfect. So I would like really to thank you to be part of this very high-level Power2X summit with a very high-level panel today. So I have also some slides to share with you. And I would like also to present my perception on how can hydrogen innovation shape the sustainability of energy transition. So maybe we have to wait a little bit for the slides, if it is okay. So I've been heading Sierra Litton for 8 years now, and yes, moving to a new position of taking a CEO position on electrolysis company. And I have no doubt today that we will have a huge development around hydrogen with different applications. And let me say that hydrogen will be the key. So to decarbonize first the industry, and especially the non-abatable sectors, to stabilize and store electricity for renewable energy, and to bring in a complementary way with battery, to bring instant recharge and electrification of big mobility platform. So I don't know if you can show my slides.
Hello. Yes, you should be able to share your screen. We're having some issues locating them on our end, but you should have the option to share your screen directly. You should have the option to share your screen, if I'm not mistaken, on your to share your screen. Yes.
I thought that you show for me, but it's okay. I have it.
Okay.
Is it okay?
Not at this point. We can see you, we cannot see your screen.
Of my presentation. So only a few words of what is CA Liten. So in the top of three research organization in terms of energy transition, regarding our staff number, so around 1,000 researchers, even maybe at a higher rank if you consider the number of patents per researcher per year, so we are above 230 per year. So really our mission, which is important, is to support the industry towards energy transition. And our organization is similar to private companies with 4 different divisions, let me say 4 different business units on solar, which is also known as INES in Chambéry campus, on electromobility with battery and fuel cells, on energy efficiency, dealing with heat and production on hydrogen. And you know, all our stories and successes begin with advanced materials that will improve PV module, PV batteries and fuel cell. And we have 200 researchers working on that issue. The model we have chosen to develop this research is important, is called technology research. It means that we are working in very close relationship, and I think it is one of the key, it is already been mentioned today. We are working in a very close relationship with industrial partners, more than 300. So let me describe a little bit what is technology research. The main goal really of technology research is to close the gap between fundamental research and the industry. And what does it mean? It means that 60% of our staff is coming from the industry. It means also...
We are able to share the slides from our end. Could you tell us which slide we show right now? We're currently on slide 4.
Number 2.
Okay, let's go back to number 2.
It's number 2, yes. So it is what I can see. Means also that regarding technology research, that our laboratory looks like more pilot lines with really the ability to project very quickly our proof of concept into an industrial reference, which is very important. Working, for example, with equipment manufacturers that could be the key to decrease the risk of the industrialization. And you have here an example of our PV pilot line, which has recently achieved 25% of efficiency with our next generation of PV cell, but it is not a result achieved in a laboratory, it's really a result achieved in an industrial context, and you can see the image. So let's move to slide number 3. So in that context, we are able really to decrease the risk, and I think it's very important, and accelerate the technology transfer. And I put in these slides different technology transfer already done by CA Liten. So we were the first to develop advanced PV plant in Europe with our partner Enel in Sicily. Now in the hydrogen sector, so we can say that the key will be the cost-effective hydrogen production, so without creating further CO2 emission. And CA Liten intends now to accelerate, in one hand, its development and creating an industrial actor with the partners you can see here in the other hand. And it is really the scheme that we did in the past for ST Microelectronics in the field of microelectronics. And a last example is our initial startup, Symbio, which is now inside the JV between Michelin and Faurecia, that will put very soon on the market hydrogen powertrain to electrify mobility platform. Let's move to the next slide, please. So let's focus on hydrogen. So we can say that we are very active in hydrogen policy at different levels. We were part of the national plan and even co-writer of this hydrogen French strategy. We are in the board of the FCAGU, coordinating the research and pioneer within different alliances within Morocco and also with Germany, for example, with Max Planck Institute on Power-to-X developments. In the field of science and technology, so I present what we did on electrolysis and on fuel cell. So we are also working on hydrogen transport. And for example, we are investigating hydrogen embrittlement mechanism, and we are collaborating with different French industry, for example, GRTgaz. We are also working on hydrogen storage with the development, and you can see example here on compressed hydrogen storage, but also liquid organic hydrogen carriers. And as you can see, our role as a research organization is really to bring technology from the lab to the market in a very close collaboration. And again, it is the key with industrial partners. And we believe that the development of the hydrogen economy should be based on a strong manufacturing industry. It is not too late in comparison to other subjects, so maybe battery, and we will see. And we really have to share expertise and build alliances between research, industry, and the state policy. Very important to coordinate everybody. So not only for the technology transfer, but also for the early deployment. Let's move to the next slide, please. And I would like just to show you some example of our results. So if we can move to the next slides, please. And let me say that I ask very often the question, what is specific in our approach in CL10? And I have two different answers. The first one is whatever the subject, we have a vertical approach from material component to their integration. And we have also a systemic approach without any opposition in between the technology. And the best example I can give you is Energy Observer, this boat that we have developed on the basis of our technology. And the boat was operational only 1 month after the different techno integration, showing our capability to develop advanced energy management system. That will be very important also in our renewable world tomorrow. Let's move to the next slide, please. The second example I wanted to give you is a zoom of our solid oxide technology with a huge patent portfolio. You can see here more than 40 patents, and with very high and specific performances, so high efficiency, does not require noble metal or critical materials. That could be a key, you know, to have really this view of life cycle analysis once you are developing one technology. It is also a modular technology. It means that it can be operated with hydrogen, methane, or even ammonia. And so it is very flexible. And it is what we are going to industrialize inside a new company with the different actors that you can see here on this slide. Let's move to the last example I wanted to show you. So it's also closing the carbon cycle. And it's also the key in the hydrogen world. And you know, when you are working now in the sector of energy, it's very new. I've been working on that energy issue for more than 20 years. And in the past, when you were a specialist in energy, you had to test your solar panel, you had to test your battery, and that's it. Now you have really to take into account the impact of a lot of different points, lot of different sectors, such as mobility and such as industry. And it is really the case of hydrogen. And in that case, hydrogen, we will have this role to combine CO2 and then to produce molecules of interest. We did it in Poland in the framework of an European consortia to produce methane in cooperation with Toron. And we are doing it with GRTgaz in France in the context of the project Jupiter 1000 to demonstrate power-to-gas applications that will lead to decarbonize the gas grid. In conclusion of my presentation today, so let's move to the next. I would like only to give you this case study which is taking place in Morocco. You know, I always have the questions about the complementarity between battery and hydrogen. If batteries will remain suitable for the small mobility, especially in Europe, very quickly, and in applications which are balancing low-cost PV or wind system electricity in sunny country, hydrogen and especially the high-temperature electrolysis technology can very quickly take the advantage. And for me, and let me conclude with that, I think it is a great opportunity for Morocco to take the lead, and of course, with a joint collaboration between Europe and Africa. So I thank you, and I'm very pleased to answer your further questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your view of the and also your view on, I guess, the company you're moving to. So let's discuss about this at the end, and I'd like no further give the word to Dr. Emilio Nieto Gallego to give us his view on managing the challenges of the hydrogen economy.
Good morning to all. First of all, I would like to thank you the invitation to the organizers. It was a pleasure for me not only to be here and to have the opportunity to explain which are the different projects we are working on and here in Spain and in our center, but also to share this high-level panel with all of you. And I don't know if this is always a topic, but when you are not the first one, your messages is already covered by the previous speaker, and I would like only to emphasize the different meanings it was trying to find ourselves in our center. I have no presentation because my experience is when you have only 5-6 minutes, if you have a presentation, you need at least 10 or 15 minutes. So I decide not to have this in order to be able, the moderator, to stop me and give time in order to reply to all the different questions you have. So only a few words about our national center. We are a national consortia making research and development and focus since 2007 in hydrogen and fuel cells only. So we are working there around 51 people devoted only in order to work and develop different activities covering the whole value chains. And this means that covering the whole value chains, we are moving from all different technology readiness level, from the basic research to the final application. And we have a strategy, and this strategy lines is concentrate in the main horizontal or verticals, as you want to explain, information on the whole value chain of the hydrogen. We are working in production in all the different process in order to produce hydrogen, and of course we are focusing, as all of you, in green hydrogen and try to integrate renewables into the process of production of the hydrogen. Once we have the hydrogen produced, we are also some lines in order to analyze how to store, not only by pressure, but also using different liquids, as you are mentioned before, and yesterday also with some of the other colleagues and speakers, it was already talking about that. And once we are analyzing how it's possible to store, we are working in the fuel cell in order to convert to energy again, and we are working in all the different fields you are already mentioned before. And the previous speaker, Florence, he was already pointing out the solid oxide, that for us, we are making a lot of efforts, and we have a lot of different projects in order to move forward and try to increase and scale up this technology, because in the future, it will be one of the most important ones. Of course, this is a high temperature system, and always you have to take into account this kind of cost in your process, but you have another advantages if you are using this kind of system. And of course, another strategic lines, we are working in our institute is once you cover the whole value chain, how will be the different applications is possible for you to use, not only in mobile application, on transport application, but also in stationary applications like houses, for instance, that here in Europe we are not used in order to think about that, and this is something that we all together need to work together in order to force the regulators in order to allow to start thinking about integrate this kind of possibility. And of course we have some strategic line for covering the cross-cutting activities. And you know that in Spain it's very difficult to translate in Spanish. Sorry, this is an echo. It's finished. So the cross-cutting activities, and also the safety and pre-normative line that is very important, because all of you know that we need to develop new regulations, new norms, new documents and procedures for all of us in order to move forward all together. We are devoted, as I mentioned to you, to covering the whole value chain. But for us, the main two points in order to work with the hydrogen is the ability of the hydrogen in order to provide the decarbonization scope. I think all of you, and yesterday it was also mentioned with all the different speakers very widely. But one important point that I would like to point it out here is this is a solution for the different application where the electrification is not feasible. And I mean not feasible because the most of the time is costly. For instance, if you want to construct a railway, a high-speed railway, for instance, you have to invest a very huge amount of money in order to electrify, and the hydrogen offer you a possibility in order to do in a more efficient way, let's say. So one of the main aspect I would like to point it out as a future and of course a cooperation between all of us is an alternative who offer the hydrogen to give a solution for a different sector that is possible to electrify. What is clear is that it will be also helping the hydrogen economy and the whole value chain to integrate the renewables and to increase the renewables. And we are all of us talking about solar and photovoltaic, but also we have to take into account the biomass as a source. And we have several projects and important projects, not only in Europe, but also from a national point of view, in order to treat the waste and try to work with, even if it's hydrogen, the final destination, or methanol, or even green ammonia, as you are talking about. So this is also something that we have to consider, because it's a very good possibility as an intermediate step when we are moving from the gray hydrogen that we are running today to the blue one that is considering some CO2 capture. And also the final destination will be the green one. So maybe in the coming years we have to simultaneous working with the transition between the gray and the blue, starting to develop the green one, and in 10, 15 or 20 years all of the hydrogen produced in the world could be the green one. And this is our goals in order to be able to all together working and try to fit the challenge objectives from the climate. It was already defined. So this is something that we need to do because otherwise the planet will be destroyed. And we, I suppose, we all want to continue living here. So we need to develop this kind of clean technologies in order to help the sector to move forward. And I think also another important field of development is the new chemicals for considering energetic vector. We have the hydrogen, we are talking about the green ammonia and the green methanol, but also in this afternoon it will be also one panel and one talk specifically about the liquid organic hydrogen carrier. And this is something that we need to think about and try to offer a possibility for some applications, like for instance the vessel. That is very complicated in a vessel to have a huge amount of hydrogen, not only in hydrogen liquid or even hydrogen pressurized, but I think the solution for them will be to think about this kind of new energy vector and how to work all together in order to reduce the cost and try to work increasing the efficiency of all the different processes from hydrogenation and dehydrogenation step. That is the most important issue. And to finish my talk is we have two more ideas. One of them is try to profit the infrastructure, the gas infrastructure we have along the Europe. I think this is something that it should be helping us in order to do step by step the moving to the next century, let's say. So we had to analyze how will be the maximum percentage of hydrogen to blend into the network in order to profit the gas network and to transport this hydrogen produced and to reduce the CAPEX and OPEX cost of the new investments. And also, one of the ideas that you were already talking about is we need all together to cooperate. I think the best way to do is not only working internationally, and congratulations for organizing this summit, that all of us think in the same way, and I think this is positive. What we have to do is try to profit the main advantages of the different countries, as Badid explained before, Morocco, Portugal, Spain, the south of Italy, Greece. I think we have a geography and a very high hours of sun, and this is something that we have to profit, and we have to offer the rest of the countries that we can commit on the goal of reducing the cost per kilo of hydrogen and export this amount of green hydrogen to another different countries that you have another different advantages. Maybe you are more technological or you are more industry driven, and I think this kind of approach in a cooperation, international cooperation, this is something that we need all together, and this will also allow us in order to reduce the cost. And this is something that we all have this on mind. And of course, all the different roadmaps that this was already published in the last months, not only in Spain, but also in Portugal, France, Germany, Morocco, Australia, all the North countries, and even the South America countries like Chile and Argentina. I think this kind of things, this is only reflect that we all work together in the same field, and we have to cooperate as a public-private partnership in order to continue working on there. So I finish here my talk. I hope to have the time in order to reply to the different questions you have and to have another value debate. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Nieto de Gallego, for your view on the view of your institution and also Spain. And our last speaker is Franz Josef Rademacher from Austria, from the Research Institute for Applied Oriented Knowledge Processing. Mr. Rademacher, the floor is yours.
Dear Chairman, thank you very much for the opportunity to give a few considerations in this interesting debate that we have now since an hour. Yes, I come from a research institute. I work with the Club of Rome since 20 years, and I'm also associated with an organization, Global Energy Solutions. So we look at the climate and the energy topic with view to the whole world. And one of the major issues from our view is that within 30 years, there will be 2.5 billion more people. That means every year we add the population of Germany. We have in Germany many environmentally oriented people, that believe that the solution to the global environmental problems lies in Germany. We have doubled the CO2 emissions of France, but we believe we can be a model for the world. We think this is total nonsense. We have to concentrate on the billions of people in poverty who want to have a bigger share in life quality. This is particularly the African population, the Indian population, and their role model is China. It's interesting to look at China because socially, China is a big success. Environmentally, it's a total disaster. China now has more CO2 emissions than the US, Europe, and Japan together. So the decision about the Paris Accord, it will not be brought about in Europe. It is about the development aspirations of billions of people that legitimately want to have a better future. And the rich countries should concentrate on technologies to help that this transition is possible without a climate catastrophe. But the truth is, we are walking in a direction of 3 degrees, not 2 degrees, not 1.5 degrees. And the policies we have today, they are on the route to 3 degrees. But nobody wants to talk about that. We need our illusions. And solutions at all. And we think there is 2 pillars one has to concentrate on. The one is nature. This is reforestation in the tropics. This is humus formation in the soils, and particular, we need to protect rainforests and pay a lot of money to protect rainforests. We calculate that the rich world should invest at least 100 euros every year into every hectare of rainforest kept intact. But we don't do this. We don't even do 1/100th of this amount, though every hectare of rainforest that is used means 700 tons of CO2. But essentially, that seems to interest nobody. We even have many in the environmental field that call it greenwashing and to buy you free if you invest into the protection of rainforests. Actually, we need a global program for that, but there is no global program. This program would include that the people who emit CO2, they pay for others to create the negative emissions. In Germany, we would take that money to pay for charging stations for electric cars. And then we would believe ourselves we solve any problem. No, we need the money to suck the CO2 out of the atmosphere, but then the money would go into another country, and that is something we don't like so much. Now I come to the second pillar, it's the green energy, which always starts with the green electricity. And we need enormous amounts of green electricity. Maybe we need, on the global scale, 50 times, 100 times as much as we have today. And it's completely clear that the great sun deserts of the world are the key for solving this issue. And we would have to generate enormous amounts of money in investments to create this power pace for the world. And there is absolutely no need to create green energy in industrial states. These states, coal, oil, and gas, and there's absolutely no reason why they should not import the basic elements for energy in the kind of division of work that we have worldwide. The impact of the developed countries is in particular in technology. If we had enough green energy. And I hope for Morocco, and Chile, and others that eventually we go in this direction. Then we can create as much green hydrogen as we want. And eventually we can do this for €1 per kilogram. And then the situation becomes interesting because efficiency arguments have no longer any importance. This is a big opportunity we have, that we have the cheap green hydrogen aside to the cheap green electricity. But then we need a third step. We have to transform this green hydrogen into PTX solutions or vectors. I think the most important will be methanol and methane. Ammoniac will have a role, but I think methanol will be the most important. Methane will also be important because then we have the energy in a form that we have a storage device. It is like gasoline, and we can transport it around the globe without problems in the infrastructures we have. And the whole thing is cheap. Particular, it offers a solution to recycle enormous amounts of CO2, for instance, from coal-powered plants. We have one new coal power plant every day. In the poor countries, we build one new coal power plant every day. I work very close with Minister Müller from the BMZ, the Ministry for Global Development and Cooperation. And he says, eventually Africa might become a black continent. What he means is 500 new coal power plants so that every person in Africa has access to electricity. If we have no solution to recycle the CO2 from these coal power plants, then we need not even to talk about 3 degrees. And this is the reality. This is the world, how it is today. These coal power plants are built. Hundreds are there. China is going into coal power plants one after the other. And in the end, they will work for at least 40 more years. And if we have no solution for that CO2, we can forget about stopping climate change. So we have a need to recycle. This is carbon capture and usage. It is not storage. It is usage. We need what is called sustainable carbon recycle economy. This is where we have to go. And the ideal solution is to combine this carbon with green hydrogen to produce the green methanol or the green methane directly. So there's big technology challenges, but I also want to mention the political challenges. Because one thing is what the State Secretary of Morocco mentioned in the beginning. The promises in forms of NDCs of many developing countries are conditional. So there must be money inputs into those countries, because otherwise the promise is not a promise. The promise is conditional on money flows, and the rich world usually doesn't want to debate these money flows. The money flows could be the money flows for the technologies we need, for instance, in the sun deserts. But I want to mention a second point, and our State Secretary from the Environmental Ministry hinted to that very cautiously. But essentially what she said is, we do not really like so much the synthetical fuels if they go to cars. This is we have already noticed that projects are in difficulty as soon as the synthetical fuel is for something that cannot easily be electrified. So if it is for planes, if it's a kerosene, wonderful. If it is for ships, wonderful. Maybe for big trucks, wonderful. But what about cars? The problem is we have 1 billion cars which use gasoline on this globe, and we need these cars to become climate neutral.
Herr Rademacher, you have to finish.
And therefore, we should do it somewhere else. But the should do it somewhere else often means we do it not at the point where it might have the biggest success very, very soon. I take another topic. It's using CO2 coal-fired plants.
Really sorry, but unfortunately, could you please conclude in a few seconds? Thank you very much.
That we can take from coal power plants, because every CO2 not going into the atmosphere is an advantage. Now the argument is, yeah, may be true, but this could be a lock-in effect for coal. The point is not that we create lock-in effects. The point is that there is hundreds of coal-fired plants, and they are added every year, and new will be added. And if these are all added and we have no solution, then we cannot solve the climate problem. So this is what I want to conclude. My argument is we have to concentrate on the final issue, which is to solve the climate problem. And every step on the way has to be checked against whether it helps to solve the climate problem. We have as a second target the SDGs and the biodiversity. So you must always think, does it help the SDGs? Which means we must create a good living standard everywhere around the globe, which means a lot of things have to happen in countries that are now comparatively poor, and we have to solve the biodiversity issue, which means we have to go into these nature-based solutions. I think only if we concentrate on these aspects, we have a chance to go in the right direction. I think even then we will make the 2-degree aim, not to talk about the 1.5-degree aim, but everything lower than the alternative is better, even if it is beyond 2 degrees, and therefore we should concentrate on this. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Rademacher. This was a little bit longer than expected, so 2 of our speakers had already to leave. But we still have about 10 minutes, or we want to have 10 minutes at least to discuss. And the question you raised in other ways are how we manage the technology challenges. And I think the first thing normally research organization industry is complaining there's not enough money. But I think this point, I mean, I have to congratulate all the governments in Germany and in France, in Spain, and also the European Union, that they really have put a lot of money. As you said, Mrs. van der Vlies, 42 billion euros have been given by the European Union. So this point we can make a check. And the next thing is, what are your wishes to speed up really the technology implementation? What have we to do else except giving a lot of money to the system to promote pilot plants, etc. So what are your wishes now to the industry and the research organization from European Union? Perhaps you can say a few words on this, Mrs. van Vlies.
Yes, thank you very much. And let me first say how extremely inspiring this session was. I think it was very, very good to see, first of all, that I think we are all aligned. And it's very heartening to see, you know, how across the globe we are working towards the green hydrogen solutions. I think it is very important, and previous speakers already mentioned it before as well, that we now have a pipeline of viable investment projects that are very well coordinated across the whole value chain. So the European Commission has launched the Clean Hydrogen Alliance, which will bring together stakeholders across the whole value chain to really coordinate now the investments as well. And I think previous speakers mentioned it before as well, that of course we need to make sure that we are investing also at local and regional level in those areas where we can really have the most cost-effective solutions. So this cooperation across the public and private sector is something that we are promoting from the European level. We have seen indeed that in the European Union, many countries have established their national hydrogen strategies with various levels of ambition. But the only way forward to have a global solution is to increase the collaboration, not only within the European Union, between the private and the public sector, but also globally. And this is why the European Commission's Clean Hydrogen Alliance has called for this strengthened cooperation with Africa. We see huge potential in this cooperation, not only because of the proximity to Europe, but also because of the renewable potential. And we've also, with great interest, followed the developments of the African Hydrogen Partnership. And we are very much looking forward in closely cooperating with this partnership to make sure that we can have the global cost-effective solutions across the whole value chain. So thank you again very much for this very interesting discussion.
Thank you, Mrs. van der Vlies. So I'd like to pass the word to Mr. Icken. So do we need a European African roadmap for implementation of a hydrogen economy?
Definitely yes. We had yesterday during different sessions from panelists, we heard we need to speak the same language, we need the same currency. If we have to start then the international trading. And this is why it would be then very positive. And this is why we are starting with such kind of initiatives, and we would like as well then to contribute humbly, on a humble way, to support this dynamic, to have the opportunity to learn from existing experiences. For us, it's very important to see what's happened in Spain, what's happened in France, in Germany, in Japan, and so on, and to give the opportunity to other partners as well to have those lessons learned. And then later on, we spoke already about the international cooperation. And this is why I said we have to try. And I think that the other panelists mentioned also this point. We don't have only to cooperate only on this financial, economic, then trade level regarding exporter country and importer country, but we have to try to work on the different dimensions. We mentioned before R&D, capacity building, to develop maybe then joint models, and then to try to have the new economical models. Professor Rademacher spoke as well about the challenges, and there are maybe then new opportunities. A few years ago, when CCS was not possible, all the time when we spoke about then carbon, it was like a huge problem. So we have then to put it then in a place, and then to forget then the carbon and the CO2. I think today we might be then able to develop the new models to have a real circular economy, and we have to work together on the different then levels, because R&D, policy, regulation, standards, and so on, and then to try then together to develop the new models and new partnerships.
Perhaps my last question goes to Mrs. Lambert. You're leaving research and going to a startup. We have not really we have not really spoken about startups. If we remember the digitalization, the revolution in digitalization was mainly driven by startup. What is your vision? Why are you leaving now to a startup? Do you believe hydrogen revolution will also be pushed by startups?
Yes, I think that it's only the beginning of the story, because we have to move toward maybe a new economic model, even in that context. So this is why, for me, the synchronization of the actor will be key. Because in the research part, we have to think about the new technology for tomorrow, to have mobility. So we really need to be close to the deployment, and then to be in the middle of this new way of making business and with new economic model. So and the other point for me is also that we should have an equilibrium. We should have industry leader that will maybe give some insurance in the development, that will could lead some roadmap. But inside, and also the key will be in the synchronization in between the different industrials. So, and inside you will have the startup. I'm not sure that the development of the technology will come from startup, because, you know, and it is my experience, I'm not very confident in the fact that we will create a startup in our garage for batteries, for PV. So technology will take some time to develop, and I'm not sure that the startup will be really appropriate. But startup for the integration, for the digitalization, yes. And I think the recipe at the end will be the connection of the actors and to create new model with different industrial. And so in that way, startup will be the key. And I will be able to speak a little bit more in January. So it's not really a startup, it will be a JV between different actors, but I will come back on this later.
Thank you very much, all of you. And let me conclude. I think the politicians, the European Union, the Minister of Morocco, and also our German Secretary of State said that really the money is there. So we have to now manage the possibilities we have, the challenges. And I think we discussed very well about pilot plants. We discussed about business models. We discussed about that perhaps an African-European roadmap would be appropriate to synchronize also the different cultures and the different approaches towards a green hydrogen economy. And with this, I like to conclude this session and thank all the speakers very much again for their input. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Chairman, for your very effective and fluid moderation of the session. What a great way to start today's considerations around this important topic of Power to X. As you just heard, we discussed important issues, we discussed challenges, opportunities, the Paris Agreement, 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, biodiversity, new economic models, as well as we already are hinting as to what we'll be discussing in a few minutes, which is the topic of the upcoming session around the linkages between renewable energies and Power to X. So I would like to invite all of us to connect again in about 5 minutes for a very exciting session. Thank you very much.